Hey, Coach. I'm so happy you found us on YouTube. Very excited about that. Let me know how I can help in any way. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you share it. We like those thumbs up. All those things really help on YouTube. If you're looking for greater details, you're looking for more stuff, you want to put some of these pictures on the wall, let me help you. Come over and join us at teachhoops.com. 14-day free trial while they last. And enjoy.
All right, welcome to Coach Unplugged. I pulled Coach off a run. So where do you run in New York City before we get into the intro and stuff?
I don't run much anywhere. This is like the fourth run of my life.
Okay, I thought you were a runner. I'm going, God,
Definitely.
are you like
That's why I said it was a slog of a run.
okay.
I'm definitely not a runner. I never liked running without a basketball.
All right.
There's not a lot you can do anymore.
Because everyone that's listening is like seen Casey Neistat run around half of New York City. You know, it's like
No, I made it like a mile.
Okay.
I ran back.
I walk the dogs along. That's what I do. I take the dogs and they pull me along, so I'm moving faster than a walk. So, Coach, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. Kind of tell you coach in New York City, but I'm going to have you kind of introduce yourself. Tell the listeners about your kind of basketball journey. You know, starting back to your playing days, and then just kind of working through where we're sitting here today, and then we'll talk about your program and building a program and all that fun stuff.
Oh, that sounds good. You know, my name is Biran Shea. I'm a physical education teacher and basketball coach from Brooklyn, New York. I'm one of those rare lifelong New York residents. I've lived in Brooklyn my entire life.
Oh, really? In Brooklyn?
Yeah, I live in Brooklyn my entire life. I've been outside of the house I grew up in since I was 22. I'm 30 now, but I've never lived more than like 15 minutes from where I grew up. Fun fact to basketball junkies, I grew up in the same neighborhood as Chris Mullin.
Okay.
I knew the entire Mullin family growing up. I used to go to their camps. I worked at their camps. I still see some of his brothers all the time.
How many brothers does he have?
He had 3 brothers,
Okay.
Roddy, Terrence, and John.
Okay.
Roddy unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, I think, and Terrence is still in the neighborhood, so I see him, a couple of times a year. Nice guy. Like I said, I was the first basketball job I ever had was working at Chris Mullin's camp when I was about 14 years old. Same gym that he shot in growing up. It's the same gym I played in, St. Thomas Aquinas. It's a staple in Brooklyn church basketball, I guess you would say. And
right.
He actually mentions it in his Hall of Fame speech.
Oh, he does?
Yeah,
that's
growing up on Flatbush Avenue at St. Thomas Aquinas.
God, he could shoot, man.
He came in one day after we worked in camp, and he was wearing thong sandals. I'll never forget this, like the open toe flip flops. And he's like, "Can I shoot you guys?" Like, "You're Chris Mullin. You can do what you want." And I think he made like 17 straight corner threes from like out of bounds in like one of the biggest gyms in Brooklyn, and just like having a conversation, like, "How'd my son do today?" Like, he was great. Like,
right.
It was unbelievable.
What's he doing now? He was coaching for a while, wasn't he?
He was at St. John's for a couple of years. When Shamari Pons was at St. John's, run, it was when Chris Mullin was the head coach, and there was a big thing. He played there. He was coming back and everything, and I don't think it worked out how either side really expected it to. And I don't think he's involved in basketball at all right now. I know he was working as an executive in a couple of different organizations,
NBAs and stuff. Okay.
Really
nice. So that's interesting that growing up in Brooklyn and staying in Brooklyn is interesting. That's an interesting twist.
All my life, except people tell me I don't have the accent.
No, you don't. I mean, I was telling you about the other coach. The other coach had the accent. You don't have the accent. You really don't. Like,
they just tell me I talk fast, but that's about it.
You don't have that like Midwestern drawl like we have. All right. So then what happened? So you went to school in Brooklyn.
I went to school in Brooklyn. I went to Catholic school my entire life, kindergarten to 12th grade. I went to St. Thomas, and then I went to St. Edmund Prep.
Okay.
I played there for 4 years, and I got recruited by a few different schools. Ended up going to Brooklyn College. Like I said, I've never left Brooklyn. I was comfortable when I went on that visit. One of the guys on the team had went to St. Edmunds a couple years before I did, and I knew him a little bit. And I played on some really good teams at Brooklyn College, teams that won our conference championship a couple years in a row. I didn't get a lot of time. I played behind a lot of guards who scored a lot of points. So,
right.
But I was a captain in my senior year, and I basically started my coaching journey I knew that I wanted to get into coaching basketball at whatever level I could when I was, playing in college. Just like I always felt that I saw the game a little bit differently than, maybe the average person did, and something that I was passionate about. And my college coach actually told me when I was a freshman that he could see me taking over the program one day, which kind of really opened my eyes, and maybe I was right about wanting to be a coach.
Have you thought of making the step to college?
I actually started out as an assistant coach. I coached at Brooklyn College for 4 years.
Okay.
I think a week after my last game as a senior, I was out recruiting with my college coach, and kind of got it to the other side of the foot deal. That first year was an adjustment. Not so much I think my teammates always had a certain level of respect for me because they knew how much I cared and how passionate I was. But going from being their teammate and their friend to being their coach was kind of an adjustment, at least initially. I think I handled it about as well as I could have. But
what's the recruiting radius for a college like that?
Brooklyn is a commuter school, so it's
Oh, it
mostly.
is. Okay.
Yeah, it's not. They just got like after I finished playing. I think my second year coaching, they built like an apartment building, but it's not really a dorm. It's more like apartment buildings for the school.
Okay.
But we had kids from all over. Kids from Long Island, Staten Island.
Okay.
Kids that rented apartments. Like one of my kids who ended up becoming one of my best friends, who's an assistant coach at John Jay College in the city. He's actually from up in Binghamton.
Okay.
Area. So he came down there just to go to school. It's really well known for its education programs. It's a really big phys ed school, which is why a lot of people go there.
And how big is that conference? Like, how far do you have to go to play people?
In our conference, in a league play, the furthest team is from Brooklyn College is probably City College in New York, which is like the most famous CUNY school from the 40s when they were in the NCAA tournament somehow.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all the way up in Harlem. We went downtown Brooklyn to Queens, a couple of schools in Manhattan.
You don't even have to go to Jersey. You don't have to go across the bridge then, even, huh?
Just to Staten Island was only for conference play. But out of conference, we went to New Jersey. Like I think I played at almost every Division III college in New Jersey at some point.
Okay.
So because that's for your out of conference games, that's going to be the longer trips you take, like down to Richard Stockton, which is in like Atlantic City.
Right.
Stockton College now, but that's probably the furthest trip we took. And then when we actually won our conference, we went to St. Lawrence University, which is based all the way upstate. It's like around the corner from Canada.
Yeah.
And then we went to Rochester the next year. So a couple of different schools but it's definitely a different feel than we didn't have the long bus rides.
You don't have the long bus rides. So then what? So then you did that for 4 years. Then what?
After my third year coaching at Brooklyn, my head coach ended up stepping down. A lot of people thought I was gonna get the job. Didn't. Might have been told I was a little bit too young. I was only 25 at the time.
Right.
I ended up staying a year with the guy that got the job. Lost a ridiculously tough game in the conference championship in double overtime. And after that, I just decided that, I had done as much as, I pretty much could as an assistant coach. That, I brought in 21 kids in 4 years. I brought in a few 1,000-point scorers.
Right.
Tournament MVP. So, I had done a lot of recruiting, and I wanted a chance to run my own program. And I was fortunate someone stepping down from a high school position recommended me to their athletic director, and he actually reached out to me, and I went in for an interview. And then, I was fortunate. He's actually a guy from Madison, Wisconsin, who was teaching in New York City.
Really?
Yeah. And I think he was a college athlete. He kind of sensed that bond in me, and he took a chance on me, and I was really fortunate for that. So I've been there I just completed my 5th season at Adam Shea Academy.
Okay. And how big's the school you're at right now?
So something that's probably unfamiliar to most of the country is that New York is really big on, New York City in general is really big on shared campuses. So the building that all my boys go to school in there's 3 high schools in that building, 3 separate high schools. So
really,
yeah, it's extremely common in New York City. That's why a lot of them are called campuses. They're campus schools. So like they just this first teaching job I had was actually at a campus school in Manhattan where there was 5 schools. Every floor was a different school.
They're just trying to make it smaller so the kids are more connected, or what are they trying to do there?
I'm not I'm not an educational policy.
Okay.
I think the theory is that the smaller school, the smaller classes, more attention. Um,
Right. No, that's just interesting. So when you hear like PS12, that's for elementary schools.
yeah, so generally like PS is K to 5,
Okay.
an IS, an intermediate school or junior high school is 6 to 8.
And those are all numbered.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually don't teach at Adam Street. I teach at a K to 8 gifted and talented school. So
Okay.
that has the entire school, kindergarten, 8th grade. But my building is also a campus where
Okay.
there's 3 schools in my building as well.
And then what happens when you have 3 schools in a campus? Is it like different lunch times, different like
Yeah,
how does
they're staggered everything. We split the gym, so one side of the school, one side of the gym is always my school. The other side is always another school, and the third school is a smaller school that's just for special education students.
Okay.
And they kind of like they know when we're not in the gym, and they just go in there.
Okay.
They kind of work with us to get their own time, kind of thing.
Okay. Okay. And how many baskets in court? How big is your court? Like that
Uh,
intrigues me in New York.
the school that I teach at, I have
Yeah.
my side of the gym. We have 3 baskets. If I were to,
Okay.
talk about
No,
it.
but at your high school.
Oh, we have 6. We have 6. You'll see
Okay.
in some of the clips I show later. Our gym is actually really nice, and I'll show you clips of gyms that are not so nice.
I know we were talking about one point that you take, like when you go on the road, you jump on a bus. I mean, you jump on the subway.
Oh yeah. We I know that it's probably common for schools outside of New York City probably get on their own school bus and drive to and from games. My kids
Right.
get on the train, and they'll get on the train or the bus, more likely the train, and they'll just right at the school they meet up in the lobby, and then my captains make sure everyone gets to the train, and we go from there.
And do you just, and then when the game's over, you talk to them and then they just go off on their own?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. Generally, there's a lot of schools aren't too far from train, so it's not really an issue. And plus, all of our kids will be going. They live all over Brooklyn, but where our school is in Adam Street's in downtown Brooklyn, so it's like I don't know, 25 steps from the Brooklyn Bridge. So it's like where they go to school is like a hub where any train can go. So
Right.
often they all head that way anyway together, and then they kind of split off to
Okay.
where they're going. But
No, I think that's a compliment. I think that's a compliment to New York kids. They're just kind of on. They're that's just assume that they're going to do that.
yeah,
There's an independence with that. That's great. As someone that hasn't done that, you as a coach lose a little bit of that interaction, like getting on the bus
yeah.
time.
I'm sure my guys would tell you that we practice enough. So
Yeah.
we make up for it.
There's enough coach time. That's true.
Yeah. We try to make up for it as best we can.
Okay. So do you always so if you have to share the high school, do you always have to go early? You go after school? Do you have to go late? How does that work?
The schools of the time the schools in the campus all get out at different times. So
Okay.
our school is where my boys go to school is the Urban Assembly School of Law and Justice.
Okay.
It's actually a really good academic high school. And there's an all-girls high school in there, which is another Urban Assembly school, which is the Urban Assembly is a really big network of schools.
Okay.
That makes sense. There's like 30 Urban Assembly schools throughout New York City.
Okay.
And then, again, the special ed schools in the building. So they don't really have any gym time after school. The students aren't really doing that. They're in other programs.
Right.
But our girls, the girls' school gets out first.
Okay.
So, they're lucky because they can have girls from the girls' team and from girls from the girls' school and our school. Whereas, we can't really get girls from the girls' team to play for our team.
Right.
Boys' team. So, like, we have less students to pick from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So the girls, they get out first. So they go out every day right after school. So we come down. I generally get down to school, driving down there. Take me about a half hour. And we have study hall from 3:45 to 5:15, and then we go practice 5:30 to 7:30.
So you have to go from where you're teaching to get to the high school then?
Yeah, I've been doing that.
And is that hard for you to not be in the same school?
I don't think so. I was fortunate. One of my really good friends worked at that school, just as a coincidence, and he was gonna help me out from jump. So I got in, he was kind of like my eyes in the building. And then I think that I definitely had a different approach than the other coach did, in terms of like being a lot more no nonsense. Like I take it real serious, like what I wanted and things like that. So I think that my uh, how I approach things, I needed to earn my stripes a little bit. And then after I earned my
Right.
stripes, the teacher started looking out for me. The dean started looking out for me. So like it became really quick. Like they knew by probably like the middle of my first year there that like it wasn't going to make more than a period what happened in school without me finding out about it. So like, it's best that it didn't happen.
And that's the only thing I have a hard. That's what I tell some young coaches. That's the only hard part is if you can have a pulse, it's good because I've put out 1,000 brush fires in my school of
Yeah,
over the years.
I think that our deans kind of helped us out with a lot of that. Just in general, like we've always had. Then I actually ended up getting one of my best friends a job in that school to be the phys ed teacher, and he ended up being one of my assistant coaches, so he was there, and
That
you know,
helps.
yeah, I've been fortunate that I don't think I could have more of like a feel of what's going on in the program and with the boys if I was there, other than I have to wait a couple hours to respond to any potential situations. But then again, they might have gotten an angry text or two before I got there.
And sometimes it's better maybe to cool down too. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah, yeah.
it might be a good cool they might be happy that it's like a cooling down process.
Yeah,
All right, so let's talk
that drive down there.
that. So do you drive a car or do you jump in you drive?
Yeah, I drive. I drive. It's because I my first year there, I was still teaching in the city,
Okay.
and it was actually like a train ride away from where Adam Street is. So it was super easy. I was getting there every day at 3:10.
Okay.
They don't even get out of school till 3:30. So that was that was easier. But then I was fortunate. I got an opportunity to work at like a really good gifted and talented school, which was just the best thing for my teaching career.
Right.
Uh,
And
and
then so where do you park? Because parking's a pain in the butt in New York.
I got in really good with the school safety agents, and they started holding me down very very nicely. Uh,
Okay.
they got some gear, I promise, but they would definitely put some cones out for me.
Okay, that's the key. Yeah, I know. I do that. Shoot, you should see our parking lot. It's huge, and I still, when I go home for lunch or something, I literally, people won't move cones. Really, they really won't move cones because they don't want to get out of their car to move the
In New York,
cone.
they definitely do move cones, but
They
like
do.
we're outside the school, that you can't really park there until 4 o'clock anyway because of like the school parking rules. So
Okay,
like, they're kind of told by the school safety agents it's best you leave before I get it moved, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
right.
So it,
That's good. It's like the secretary, knowing the right people that make the school. That's a key thing for building any program too. Is knowing who runs the school, and they run the school, and the secretaries run the school, and yeah,
yeah,
the right people.
it all came with earning my stripes. My first year, like they used to try to rush me out of the gym because it was their time to go, and as they saw what I was doing and the impact that the program was having, it kind of lessened and lessened, and now by this year I was getting away with a lot. Like I was trying to ease up on taking up too much time. I felt like I was stealing.
Right. I know. I hear you. Okay. So let's talk about building a program. I think this is good. Because I think we've given people kind of a background of you.
Mhm.
So what do you think the key was when you walked in? And then you can share and do whatever you want. But when you walked in, what do you think one of the keys was? And how had the program done previously?
So school wasn't that old. It was I think when I got there, they were in their 11th year of just like the school. The
Okay.
building that the school is in, which is probably really interesting to people outside of New York City, actually used to be like a really big New York City courthouse, and they ended up building a new courthouse, and they like I don't know transferred it to a school, transformed it into a
Okay.
school.
Okay.
Um, so people actually on the door to the school, it still says this is not a courthouse. Go around the corner, or it
Oh,
gives
it
them
does?
yeah.
Because it's probably
So
still some people probably haven't been in the yeah,
yeah,
that's interesting.
it used to be family court.
Okay.
And in the 11 years before I had gotten there, they had won. I'm sorry, yeah, 11 years. They had 14 wins total in like their history, and
Okay.
they had just gotten those 14 wins in the 2 years previous to me, prior to me getting there.
Okay.
So like they had a lot of years where like they just did not. The stories the coaches that I ended up coaching against used to tell me is like this was the game our managers would play in. Uh,
So
so
that's good. Those I tell young coaches that's not a bad gig to take over either. Those like I was the only applicant for my job. Like those aren't bad jobs as long as you go in with a plan. Yeah.
yeah, you know, I think that's one of the things that both intrigued the athletic director that hired me and kind of scared him a little bit because I came in with like a little portfolio, I guess would be
Right.
like a little outline, not as big as I had when I'd been on college interviews, but you know, there was some stuff in there.
Right.
And I think that he knew that the program had never seen something like that before, so he was you know intrigued by how that could go. I guess would be the best way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was tough. You know, I came into a situation where I had played and coached in college. I had been in college basketball for 8 years prior to that, between playing and coaching. And, you know, I was leaving one of the most athletic teams in probably the region that we had, you know, we just had a really good season, had 20 wins, you know, should have won our conference championship. And I came into the first day, you know, my first tryout at Adams Street, I don't think a kid hit a left-handed layup.
Right.
So it was definitely an adjustment. But I think that I laid the groundwork from the first meeting I had in September, prior to like, you know, when they were introducing the new coach and things like that. I came in and I kind of outlined, you know, what the vision was and what was going to be, you know, acceptable and not acceptable, and kind of like I guess like what would be my Coach Carter moment
Right. Yeah.
minus the violence.
Your speech on the mountain kind of thing. Yes, I love that.
Yeah, you know, and from there it was just about you know, hitting the ground running in my first year. You know, I could tell that we had some kids who probably would have been a lot better if you know, problem with New York City basketball, I think, other than the fact that it's become a lot more commercial than it should be, is that
And
I
what do
don't
you mean by commercial?
just the amount of trainers and the kids who have handlers and my guy and this guy, and you know, especially in the social media era has really hurt youth basketball a lot more than it's helped. And I'm not talking about AAU, because I coach AAU with the New York Jayhawks, and I'm a big proponent of you know, AAU basketball when it's done the right way, like I think that we have with the Jayhawks. But just in general, like kids don't play enough. I've been playing basketball on a team since I was in third grade.
Right.
Like I tell my guys all the time every year, I don't know what it's not like to not have a basketball season, and
Right.
hopefully, you know, the way things are looking, that might be the first year I don't have a
Literally a world pandemic's the only thing that would shut those
yeah. Like
trainers down and shut summer AAU down. Literally, this is it. This is
yeah,
what it
I
took. Yeah.
haven't not had a basketball season in the fall since I was in third, you know, probably second
Right.
or third grade, and I've been playing travel basketball, and that's just not common around here. So the kids that think that they're better than they are just because they're the best player in their gym class of bad basketball players, or the best player in their park with bad players, or they're
Right.
on their block, you know what I mean? Like when they're nothing to compare it to. And I think that my first year especially, I severely underestimated how important experience was. You know, regardless of what the experience was, like how important it is,
Oh,
experience.
yeah. I say the best thing about a sophomore is they become a junior.
Right,
The best,
yeah.
the
Just
best thing about juniors because yeah, unless you've been in the war, you don't the
right.
experiences.
There's
Yeah.
just the amount of kids that I had my first year that were sophomores, juniors, seniors that just did not know things that
Right.
I was been taught in like sixth grade. You
Right.
know, I wasn't prepared for that, as prepared for that as I should have been.
And how do kids come to your school? Do they get to choose the school? Is it a neighborhood school? I mean, how does New York City schooling work?
Well, they've kind of gotten away from zone schools because you know, kind of like an equity thing, I guess would be the best way to put it. Like,
Okay.
you know, there's some really good schools in the city that if you don't live in the neighborhood, you're not going to get into just because you're not zoned for it. I think that became a problem from, you know, probably the lower income neighborhoods where students definitely could handle themselves in
And
those
you can
schools
get
fine.
anywhere you need to get to. It's just a matter if you want to. Yeah.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
but I think when I was in high school, everything was still zoned, and
Okay.
then I guess during the time I was in college, it kind of went away from that, and it became more of like a citywide application process and how you rank it. And then if you were zoned for it, you got more preference, but it wasn't the end all be all.
Right. If you live across the street from your school, you have a better chance if you want to
Right,
go
yeah.
there. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But where our boys go to school is I mentioned before, is a really good academic school, and they have I think they accept 110 freshmen every year,
Okay.
and or something like that, and they have over 1,000 applicants for those seats every year.
Every year. Okay. And who decides that? Somebody downtown or somebody within?
It's a lot. It's a lottery,
Okay.
and a lot of that is because the school is well known for how good it is at its college readiness and preparing kids for the application process. There's a
Right.
nonprofit attached to the school that their sole job is to just help kids with their college application process from their junior year on. Like
Oh, that's awesome.
it's
That's
all,
awesome.
yeah, it's all those people do is work with students, juniors and seniors on their college stuff.
Trust me, I just went through that with my son, and it's like, oh my God, I'm just so happy that the writing the essay's done, and oh my God, it's just
Yeah.
oh
So, and the school and the way New York City basketball is set up, and I guess the easiest way to think about it is wherever you're at in Wisconsin or Illinois or wherever, they probably have classes.
yeah,
And that's just based strictly on school size,
yep,
from my understanding. There's that in New York City basketball. There's AA, A, and B.
okay,
And B is the smallest class in New York City. I think there's C and D divisions up in upstate New York, but not around here.
okay,
But there's a lot more influence about like who can go up and who can go down. Some schools that aren't big enough to be AA schools and A schools are, just because they either know somebody or the school has had a very reputable program or
right,
whatever the case may be. And then there's a lot of schools that there's no equity in terms of like some schools are really hard to get into,
right,
and some kids are some schools are not, and some schools can get anybody in. Now you think about that in college, like, yeah, the Ivy League and the Patriot League is really
right,
hard to get into, but they're only playing against each other.
right,
You know what I mean? For their conferences. Schools in my conference and there's divisions. The B division, we're a B division school, really small school, less than 500 kids. There's a B division that's just in the entire city, and every borough has divisions.
right,
I guess we call the B division the conference, and then
yep.
everything else is divisions.
So you play everybody. You play everybody in B, probably in Brooklyn, just about.
we put there's four B divisions in Brooklyn, west, north, east, south.
Oh, okay, okay,
We're Brooklyn B West, like I said, we're basically in Manhattan.
yep,
So every year you play your division twice, and then you play a crossover division once.
okay,
But there are schools in my division that can literally get anybody they want into the school, whereas it's a lottery system to get kids into my school. So it's
right.
like it's not equitable in terms of like
That, yeah,
level of competition and things like
right,
that. And then I don't know if it's big out anywhere but New York City, but charter schools have taken over New York City, and they're starting to play.
Are they public charter or are they run by companies?
I'd never know the answer to that.
Okay, okay,
But I know a good amount of them are in the PSCL, which is the
okay,
New York East Public League.
okay,
And again, they're not fair because there are charter schools that are B division schools, and that's supposed to be done by school size. But what's common in charter schools is that they have different campuses. So where my school can only pick a school of 475 kids,
right,
more than half of which are girls, they have 3 or 4 schools of 500 kids that can all play for that one team.
right.
Basically, in that sense, they're more than a B division class.
Yeah, that's
It's
crazy.
I can go on for a long time.
It's like that. Every coach that's listening to this dude can tell you probably 6 stories of their state too. I could tell you stories too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sure everybody has their own.
yeah, they have their own cross they got to bear. So okay, so you came in, and then so what? So let's talk about building the program. What do you think were some keys? What are some stuff you could share with listeners?
I think that I made it clear from my first day that I had come from a college program, and college basketball is all I know. And so that's what I was going to run it like a college program.
And it gave you street cred, to be honest with you, probably.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
actually playing basketball is like playing a kid in my old school where I taught at first is how I got my first full-time job. But that's a different story for off camera. But I was just very adamant about like, we were going to play the right way. And I think the biggest thing for our success, I told them from day one is that we had to be clear about what separated us from everybody else. New York City, the mantra of them having the toughest guards and things like that, for the most part, true. Like, a lot more street ball is played here, but that's also how the high school basketball is played here for the most part.
Right. And if you go to that, you can win.
Right, and not so much that, but I wanted them to know that it wasn't about winning or losing games. It was more about like how we did it, and more so than not, like I was fortunate enough to have a lot of help in our program. I asked it, like I said, I had a friend who worked there when I first started, and I got a friend a job, and then my first year, one of my friends just wanted to coach, so he got on, and so I think I did a really good job surrounding them with young people, and to an extent, like my schools, my boys are all minority students, and I had a couple of my friends who are also minorities, looked like them, successful, played basketball, college degrees, and I think that was important for them to see too, and for them to be a part of the program. One of them actually just graduated from law school. He just graduated from Michigan Law the other day.
Wow.
And he was,
That's the real deal. Michigan Law is the real deal. Yeah.
Big time. He's a big deal, Dave Lewison.
Yeah.
But he was a big part of our program the first 2 years. And I think a lot of it was that because he looked like them, was working for a law firm at the time, could tell them things that, that the New York City gang culture is very popular still. And not that my boys are ever involved in that, but they live in those kind of neighborhoods and they know. And he would tell them stories about he used to work on a gang task force and here's XYZ what happened, and it kind of broadened their horizons. So, but to circle back a little bit, it was more so like I told them whichever one of you is going to be the first one to go have a chance to play college basketball, like I don't want you to get somewhere and have them ask you what program you came from. What I mean? Like, and that's something that meant a lot to me and to the men that I worked with in terms of like, we were building something that was like a name, I guess.
Your
like,
branding, your marketing. Yeah.
That was a big thing too. When we came in, there was no sense of culture of athletic culture in general, but nothing for them to be proud of. Their uniforms were ugly.
Yeah, I mean that's what we were talking about before we came on the air too. Even such little things as the logo matter. Like like if you put a suit and a tie on and go to work, it matters. I was telling a coach a couple of weeks ago that first thing I did was talk to my AD and I said we need new uniforms when I got my first job.
Right. Yeah. So
I go because it's how these guys are going to feel is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and their uniforms. And I had seen their program play a year before because I knew their coach, and I just happened to be at the same place they had a game one day. But we had a really ugly uniform. Like uniforms are gross, and there was no logo. Like it was a cartoon. So I really went to work on branding the program, I guess. Actually, ironically, they're right here. So these were our first jerseys. I don't know if you can see.
Oh wow, that's like old school, man.
Yeah, but these are way nicer than the first one. These are the first ones I got made up, and I wish that they had the old. I know that this gear had the first logo on it.
Okay,
but
what did the first logo look like? We'll show the people that are watching too the logo in a second.
Oh man, yeah. But so I went to work after our first year. That year I got those new uniforms, and I got some gear for them, and I really worked on that. And then when I realized that there was no financial support from the school, I guess would be the part of it. Like, there's a really good academic school and they have cool programs. They do cool things, and they allocate their money how they choose. And I can't be mad at that. Like, part of that nonprofit I mentioned before, that some of my boys have gone study abroad trips in the summers to Japan and Costa Rica and India, and they did Ireland, and they didn't pay anything. So for them to have those kind of experiences just kind of speaks to the school that it is, but at the same time, they weren't. I can't hear you.
Yep, you can't hear me because my mic muted because I was drinking coffee. Those are life-changing experiences.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it became clear that like there was nothing. Whatever I was gonna do, I was doing on my own.
right.
So I ended up. I actually founded, and this is how you and I first met. I founded a basketball coaches clinic, and
I think it's great. I'm just surprised there aren't more in New York. I think you got a niche there.
don't cut into my market.
Huh?
So don't cut into my market.
Yeah, I know. I'm not trying. Trust me. There's 9 million people that live in New York City. There's plenty of big market
Um,
probably. But yeah,
yeah,
I think it's
so
great.
we can talk about that at length too. But it was just a more of like we were gonna change the way that people viewed the program. And like I told you, like people used to come there and their managers were gonna play and they were gonna win by 50,
Right.
and that wasn't it wasn't something that was okay with me. And I think initially, if I could do the first year over again, I think initially I tried to. I wouldn't say I tried to do too much. I think I tried to treat them like they weren't capable of handling what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I kind of, not that what we were doing was advanced, but it was just like it would take some time. And I think that I had always been I played man defense, and we pressed all my college career and high school big man team, and I came out playing zone, and I was trying to protect them.
Right.
And
And
I
they were
did.
probably capable of doing more than you thought they could. Probably.
Yeah, to an extent, but they didn't know it yet, and I think
Yeah.
that I had to be willing to take some bumps along the way to kind of go from there, and because it's hard to the PSCL is very big on New York City basketball is so probably different than a lot of places in terms of like very rarely do you see good defense. There might be teams that have a lot of steals, but they weren't playing defense. They were just running around, and it was erratic. And
No one's playing pack line? No one's playing Virginia pack line? Seriously? No.
actually, Ty Jerome's father coaches PSCL basketball in Manhattan, and they play the pack line.
Oh, I bet they do. I bet
Yeah,
they do.
I've never. They're an A division school. We're B division, but I've heard stories about their pack line. I don't want to.
And the thing is, I mean, that's why we've gone to national tournaments all around because we play deep. We'll play deep. We'll defend you. We'll defend you. And the reason we have been successful against, I mean, seriously, we won a tournament in Florida, and they had 2 6'11" kids. Was a sophomore getting recruited by Florida. We were able, and my tallest guy's like 6'5", but we were able to defend. And if you can defend, you can play. Like,
right, yeah, and I think that we had to get out of that that erratic style of basketball that they were used to from wherever they played at. And like I said, that all circles back to the era that they grew up in. It's not all their fault, but they didn't play a lot of basketball, so they didn't. How could you know what good or bad is in something if you've never seen it?
right.
So and I think the biggest thing that really helped us my first year, we had one kid who was a junior who had played the year before, so he had got major minutes as sophomore, so he was somewhat experienced but just erratic. But they came in and they bought in, and another thing too is that because the school is so small and various budget issues and things like that, we don't have a JV team.
Oh, really? And how many you have on your roster?
My first 2 years, my first year I took 21 kids.
That's a lot of kids.
And people had that kind of reaction like you're doing right now, and people thought I was crazy. And I asked them, I was like, well, how am I supposed to develop these other kids that could have a clue when they're a junior, but not if they don't take beatings every day in practice for 2 years?
And so here's a question for me. How did you keep those kids that weren't engaged? Like, if I'm number 20, I ain't playing ever. Like, how do you keep them engaged?
I think we were very transparent with kids, and I don't think we ever made it an A or B situation, but like the 11 through 20 was always on one side of the court, if that makes sense. when it was shell time or going over stuff, and
Okay.
just because like that's just how it had to be. But and people are like, oh, you should get a JV team. Well, let's say even if I did, just from time constraints alone, they would be practicing at the same time as us anyway on the other
Right.
side of the court. So how is that any different than what I'm doing?
Right.
Other than they're benefiting from having my voice,
Right.
my
Which
program.
is the voice is going to lead them eventually anyway. Do you
Right.
have a JB program now?
No, we
No.
are actually a couple of years ago they started a program that was just for the urban assembly school. So I guess it's like an intramural program. It's the kids that don't make our team, but we started this year with 18 kids.
Okay.
But this year it proved crazy um, dread that we did it because we had a kid get hurt. We had two kids quit, and one kid
Right.
moved. And I
Yeah.
think at one point we had like 8 guys suited up. Like
Right.
a far cry from the 18 we had in the beginning of the year.
Right.
But I think we always did a really good job of making everyone feel like they mattered and they belonged. And I would tell them all the time, like I didn't play a lot when I was in college, especially like my first couple of years. Kids in front of me were just better, and that didn't change how I came to practice every day. That didn't change me being the first off the bench during timeouts and getting water and leading defense chants. Like, so I have no empathy for people that are selfish in terms of their role in the team. Like, I'm not asking any of you to, I'm not begging any of you to be here. So
Okay.
I always told them, like, I was like, I can't empathize with people that are selfish in that regard because I've always put the team as first as I could have, and the one or two instances when I can think of that I didn't, it made me feel like crap because I know that's not who I am.
Right.
So I think that was a big thing, and it all just came back to developing that culture. And one of the cooler things that happened my first year is we played at a school in our division that was perennially had run through the division kind of thing. The last couple of years, it was always them in another school, and they're a team in a tough neighborhood. They pack their gym, and their fans are not the nicest. And
Right.
it was like our second game. We had won our first game, and I'm a confident person, so I didn't think that we were gonna go in there and get the doors blown off us like we did. And there was a time where they're up pretty big, and my kid, one thing we always never backing down. It always became a big theme for what we did. Like, we're never out of a fight. We're never gonna back down. We'll always stand up. And then there was a loose ball where two kids got tangled up, and my kid got up and their kid got up, and he pushed first, and my kid pushed back, and he got a tech, and my kid got the tech, and their guys didn't. I ended up getting my first tech. Then I kicked the ball out of a door. But it showed that they were fighting. I wanted to show that I would fight for them, and we ended up there. They were beating us by 35 starters in the game, pressing in the fourth quarter, just that
Right.
kind of stuff that you should never really see.
Yeah, you
And
should. It's high school basketball too. It's like you're not.
I looked over to the coach. I was like, I have 20 kids. I can make this game last 2 hours if this is how you want to go.
Right.
So they ended up pulling the starters, and we ended up playing them in our gym. That was probably late November. We played them in our gym in January. We ended up beating them by 15. And so that kind of showed them, like, we could be a lot more of a program than we thought. Like, we messed up their chance to win the division. We beat them by 15. They were extremely salty. And kind of overall, it was just a good situation.
Those are great. Those are great when you can get those. I had one of those this year too. Those are great wins.
Yeah.
So let's share some of the stuff that we were talking about before. I want to see that gym too, so people that are watching can and show people the logo. I love the logo.
Oh, this one, this is on the hat. I try to brand the program as best I can. I have another one right there on the sweater.
Oh yeah, I like that. And what's your school colors?
When I first got there, it was just blue and white.
Okay.
And I didn't. I kind of added gray on my own volition, and then this year we started incorporating. We were navy and white. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then this year, or towards the end of last year, I think I incorporated some like Carolina blue into our repertoire. You can see my screen now.
I can see. Yeah, I can't see the logo. I can see a cord.
Oh,
there we go.
Fine. This is
yep.
one.
Yep.
This one that I want to show you. So that's our logo. Oh, let me get back to the desktop. That's right. So yeah, that's our, one of my friends just made this graphic for me the other day. He's a college coach.
So right
And
now I'm seeing your there you go. That yes, this perfect.
yeah, so that's our logo
I
right
love
there.
that. I mean, like we were talking about this before we went on air about how much I like the logo. It's like branding is important. It really is. You always wear a tie
Yeah,
at games, coach?
yeah, that's one thing that I tried to convey to them my first year too, and I was about to touch on it before, and then we kind of got sidetracked. I'm a phys ed teacher. I wear sweats and sneakers to work every day.
Right.
Um, I've worn a shirt and tie for every high school game I've coached, just because I was used to doing it from college, and I actually do feel weird when I'm even when I coach in a scrimmage and I'm wearing like a tracksuit or something like that.
Right.
I feel weird. I feel weird.
That's your
Like I just feel
uniform. That's your uniform.
right.
Yeah.
Um, for a non-league game in the last couple of years, I've taken the tie off. Like I've just went with the shirt and button
Yeah,
down.
when we
And
go to Florida, I go to shorts and a polo when I go to Florida because it's too freaking. I'm not
yeah,
wearing
but
that when it's
I wanted them
75.
to know, like, I choose. It means something to me. I care about our appearance. I want them to know that, it's something that I take seriously.
It's
There's
your
coaches in.
preparation. That's what I tell the guys when I make them wear. I mean, it's our preparation. It's your jersey. You know.
I tell them all the time. Like I've had kids forget shorts and sneakers, and how do you forget that? Like I pack my bag with my stuff the night before. I'm very very meticulous about how I pick out my
Because they
socks.
have teenage boy brain. Trust me, I'm married to a psychologist. They have teenage boy brain. They don't think that far in
I
advance.
went to
Trust me.
I went to Catholic school my whole life. I had teenage boy brain. I wasn't allowed to forget my tie.
Yeah.
Um,
There's always for every action there's a reaction. So that's what I tell them. Something's gonna happen if you forgot it. You know.
yeah, so I mean, the graphic is a cool thing, and I'm not at all someone who boasts or is you know pound my chest kind of person. And one thing I know is that I would not have been where I'm at without the people that have helped me, that have coached with me, that have looked out for me in the school and things like that. And that's something that I take seriously. But um, I think a situation where you still with me? Oh,
Yeah, I mean, listen,
you were
I'm
like
listening. Yeah.
you were frozen for a second.
Oh yeah, my Wi-Fi might this time of night it gets a little weird. Let's show the video thing.
Okay, so well, this if you want to see a
Hey coach, hope you're enjoying the video. Make sure you subscribe and like. If you're looking to take your coaching to the next level, let me help you put some state championship balls into your showcase. Go over and check us out at teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. All right, let's head back to the video.
really bad high school gym. Now, the coach of the other team, if you can see my mouse.
Oh my God, look at okay, so make that full screen. There you go. Oh my God. Look how small that gym
So,
is.
so the coach of the school is one of my really good friends in the city. Really nice guy. Was actually just got into the Iona Hall of Fame. He played at Iona College. His name is Phil Grant. I don't know if you're familiar with the name, but really nice guy. But yeah, this is one of the schools in our division, one of those charter schools I mentioned, Summit Academy, and this is the kind of thing that you can see.
And which color are you guys?
We're the dark team. We're the blue
Okay.
team.
You got a big
This
kid
was
under basket, man. He's a big
yeah,
boy.
he was raw. He was 6'9" though.
Yeah.
And if you had seen him when he first started, it would have been a thing. And that's another thing that I'll touch on why I think we've been successful is because we've had to play different styles, different ways. Because like we've been a full court man, a lot of different presses.
So people
Kind
that are
of team.
listening, the court we're looking at right now, it's literally like 5 feet from the top of the key to the center circle. And
Well,
this
like I told you before, like I literally did it in warm-ups. Like I can shoot comfortably from where my point guard is right there.
from the
He was
other
actually
from the other 3-point line you
yeah,
can shoot to
yeah.
make the opposite way.
That's the other free throw line he's standing at right now. I don't know if that's showing up on your screen, but
Yeah, it
he's
is.
right inside the circle of the free throw line.
The center circle is
Yeah,
not even a center circle. It's like a little circle. Like it's crazy. Yeah.
and the crazy thing is, and I didn't know this until I guess he had to prove it to me. Where I went to high school was a small court, not small like this, but small. But we allow you to go back from you can go over half court to basically the other top of the key, which is way further than it is here. But that kind of rule is chosen by the home court. It's not a federation rule. It's home court. It's home court decision. they don't let you. He chooses, and this is why I said it's an advantage. He chooses to not let you go back court. His kids can't either, but this is the I think this is the 4th year we've played at that school. We've had to go back court 15 times in that gym, and like we're pretty smart about not turning the ball over. But yeah, this is one of the smaller, probably the worst high school basketball gym I've ever seen.
I mean, literally, look at the two guys are basically. I would trap every time. Like that's what.
They don't really do that, which is weird.
Right.
They kind of run. They press and they play. They trap a little bit, but not like you would expect on that kind of court.
Yeah.
But yeah, so see, I had a tie on that game, but this game got intense. I took the tie off. It's somewhere over here.
It's probably got thrown off. Do you always are there 2 officials or 3?
2 in B and A games. In double A in the biggest level, there's 3 officials. But only 2, and we don't get the best ones.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's hard too when you only have 2. I like 3 because there's always somebody in front of me. But
no.
Yeah.
Let's see. Actually, when I was looking through the clips, there was a funny one that this is probably one of the worst. Nope, it's not it. I took it out of the ones I separated for the clip, but this is when I saw it in that game. I had to bring it up just because it was one of the most egregious. Nope, not it either. One of the most egregious calls I've ever seen in my life.
It's so weird when you're showing the other court for the people that it looks like all the space between the top of the key and half court.
That gym right there. We can bring that up. That gym right there is one of the nicest. This is probably if I had to choose, this is probably the nicest school, basketball court in Brooklyn. Maybe other than LIU, the Division I school.
That looks like you could see that in Wisconsin. That gym looks like a Wisconsin gym, probably.
Yeah,
maybe there'd be seating under the baskets, but
yeah, we can go back to this program.
That's a nice gym.
Yeah, that's nice, and our gym is really nice. I gotta find the clip in our gym. But yeah, so I brought up a couple of things that I think that led to us building the program, like just little things where we didn't.
Yeah, you can pull up that those points you had too, because I think make sure you touched on all those.
Right there.
Yeah, I mean,
First year was an adjustment, players and us. We focused on building our culture. Like I said, they had 14 wins in their 11-year history before we got there. We were 94-36. We're 94-36 in our 5 years since.
And how does it look for the future?
It depends on what that future is at this moment. That's a different question if you ask me.
Let's assume there's a vaccine and we're playing in November.
We actually, I mean, it was unfortunate. Let me get back to it. It's weird talking without being able to see you. We started out really slow this year. We graduated, and this is one thing I touch on. I think that we've been really good on adjusting. So the first year going into the second year, first year we won 15 games. So if you think about it, in our first year we won. We broke the school record for wins in our first year. We got severely underseeded in the city playoffs, which is a whole other situation. Is like just basically like.
Is it a computer that does it, or is it you that do it?
Absolutely not. It's people in a room that are not making the best decisions I've seen.
Because Wisconsin's talking about having a computer do it, because a bunch of states in the Midwest have a computer do it. I think that's.
I think that New York City basketball would be in far better hands if somebody from Wisconsin came and ran it, or anywhere from outside of New York. It's just so like people that played at this school and that school and used to coach here and
there's nobody outside looking in. You need a neutral, like this is what's best for everybody.
And it's as much as they want to say that it is, it's not.
Right.
Like my first year, we ended up being seated behind a team that they beat us twice in our division, but we had a better record than them.
Right.
So like, I understand they beat us twice, but we still had a better record than them.
And most computers will take head-to-head above anything else. It will take head-to-head.
But so we got really underseeded our first year. We were every year in the B and the A division in New York City, because the only rule is you have to be 500 to make the playoffs.
Okay.
And some of the schools don't play, like some of the divisions are not very hard. So every year there's about 55, anywhere from 50 to 55 teams in the playoffs. It's
Okay.
kind of like the NCAA tournament if you think about it.
Right.
And we were the 31 seed in my first year, and we ended up getting the first round home game against the 34 seed, and we handled that fine. And we went to the number 2 seed. They were undefeated. They play. I could pull up that gym too. That gym is tough. That's a tough place to play in. Am I still sharing?
No, you're not. You stopped sharing.
I'll pull that up and then I'll share.
Okay.
And they were undefeated and number 2 seed in the city playoffs. Could have been number 1. I forget who was number 1 that year, but it was another school from the Bronx. They just had, I guess, a better, out of conference. And we ended up losing. We lost by 1. I'm sorry, we lost by 2. The game was tied with 35 seconds left, and kid on my team was our best player, probably broke a play a little bit too early. Didn't get the shot we wanted. They ended up scoring on a really nice play, a really nice out of bounds play to win the game. We lost by 2 in their gym, and we missed 19 free throws.
Oh god, that and turnovers, missed free throws and turnovers, just the reason I don't have as much hair as I used to have. Oh my god.
Oh, I said it to somebody the other day. Only thing that's happened since I started coaching is I gained weight and I lost hair.
I know. I'm calling it the COVID-19. Like I'm putting on I haven't, but I put on like 4. But it's like the COVID-19 is like me putting on 19 pounds because all I'm doing is eating.
Let's see if I can share that real quick so you can see another one of the tough gyms to play in. And the crazy thing is I had never really been to other high school gyms outside of New York City until I started coaching AAU. And
oh yeah, if you came to like the Midwest or went to Indiana and saw Newcastle's was like hold 6,000, you'd be like, oh my god, yeah.
So this am I sharing now? You can see this.
Yeah.
So this is a
tiny gym. This is a tiny gym too.
And it's like red. The lighting is red. This is the second time we've played them. So this is last year. We ended up playing them in the Sweet 16 and we lost down 2 at halftime. Had a really bad second half. But this is a perennial city power, Fannie Lou Hammer up in the Bronx by Yankee Stadium.
My God, there's a pole under the basket. Look at those 2 things. I know they have them padded, but holy crap.
Yeah.
And there's a water fountain. What happens to some? I mean, oh my God.
Really, really, really good coach, good program. They won the city championship they won the city championship 2 years in a row, then lost in the championship last year, like powerhouse. But they changed it. My first year when we played them, I can't pull that video up as easily because it's like buried in my email.
Yeah.
I'll stop it here. Now they have 3 desks, right? My first year here, they had like a scorer's table that was on the court. Like the corners of it was on the court. Like if you ran like directly up the right sideline, you were gonna hit it. And
this is not, for people that are watching on YouTube, this is not a safe. Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is. It's old buildings. I get it. It is.
You can't fault the school. It's not. I mean,
no. The schools have been around longer than who knows how long that school's been around. Yeah, I agree. All right, let's do the last couple points there, and then I have questions for you. I don't want to keep you all night, but I've got some questions for you too. So
I don't know how I lost you. Oh, well, I'm sharing. That's all that matters. Okay. Being different, we started with defense. One thing that I think really helped us is that I'd always been big on working at camps. I've worked at Hoop Group and 5 Star and Columbia University, Brown University, Penn camp, and building relationships with different coaches and things like that. Like the best part of working at those camps, the Coach Morgan Wooten's camp in Maryland was the best the best camp I've ever been to. every day they have coaches roundtables and stuff like that. It's awesome, and that's something that I could do all day is talk basketball and
Right. Yeah. Wounds is
here's
great.
what I like and here's what I see. And but one of the guys I coached at Columbia camp with was very big at like packaging and making everything uniform in his calls. And I think that my second year I did it. My first year I did a little bit, but my second year I went to everything. Everything was packaged. So if you were to see our play call sheet, which I probably should have pulled up, but I can't really do that right now. All of our defenses are colors.
Okay.
So my thing was, if you hear me say a color, I'm changing a defense.
Okay.
So we have a bevy of different presses, and I grew up when I played for in college. We were top 5 in the country every year I played in steals per game. Had nothing to do with me. I was getting water, but
Right.
my coach was very big on pressure defense and changing things up. So like I brought a lot of that. So all of our defenses are colors. All of our baseline out of bounds plays are colleges.
Okay.
Sideline out of bounds plays are states.
Okay.
And then just things like that kind of brought in, a different uniformity, something that they can know. Getting buy-in, which I'm sure every coach speaks in for a lot of different things, and to roll to their roles. Like, the truth be told, the first year we went 15-11. The second year we had a big turnaround, and we ended up going 24-5. We made it to the city Final Four. We were the number 3 seed in the city playoffs. We went from the 31 seed to the 3 seed in a year.
That's amazing.
So I don't know if that's the biggest jump in history, but it might be.
Yeah,
It
it's a
could
pretty
be.
big
It's
jump.
got to be up there. And that was just a big thing with buy-in, and we started doing a lot of more in the summers. And I didn't get the coaching job until September, so I didn't really have a preseason.
Yeah, that was like when I got my first job too. I think I got it in October. I had like 4 weeks. It's crazy.
But the year that we went to the Final Four, like we were playing kids that they just at the risk of sounding mean, they just weren't very good at basketball. But they were kids that played major minutes for us, and they really bought into their roles and what we needed them to do and things like that. So I try to I emphasize to our guys about what really mattered, like leaving a bench better than we found it.
Right, Lee. That's my grandma used to say that. Leave a place better than you found it. You borrow somebody's car, you fill it up with gas. You just leave the world in a better place.
Right. And one of my prouder moments as a coach was when we had a scrimmage at our gym, and I hammered them from the day they met me. Every other gym, pick up every water bottle, cup, paper towel. I don't care if it's yours. We're not going to be like, oh, who is on this bench, and then it's going to make our look. You stand like you represent more than you.
Right.
You represent your teammates, your coaches, your family, your school, all that. And I really hammered that all the time. And we had a scrimmage in our gym, and the other school left their bench a mess. And I went over I'm trying to clean up the gym. It was a Saturday morning. It was right before the playoffs. And they were like, I was like, what are we doing, guys? Like, let's get moving. He's like, no, coach, they got to come clean up their bench. Like, what are you talking about? I was like, look at the water bottles. And I was like, and he's like, we don't leave other schools like this. It's not right that they do that to us. I was like, well, you're right, but I want to go home.
Right.
So, but I'm proud of you. Good point.
Good point. That means they were listening. That's the key, is they were listening. Yeah.
Yeah, and so things like that, and that kind of really bought in. And I pulled up some video clips, and when I knew that I might have to share a screen, so this is a non-league game a few years ago. There's no rhyme or reason to why I really chose some of these clips, but so I mean, we were in the middle of a good game back and forth. We started pulling away here, and I just like the
you have a shot clock?
Yes, we do. New York City does have a shot clock.
And they put it on the floor?
That's just if they can't mount it. That's like they didn't have their own, I guess. I don't know. Some schools are different. Some schools have like rolling scoreboards and table scoreboards.
Dude, I put grandma. That's one of the reasons I don't think we should have a shot clock unless everyone mounts it. I'd put grandma standing in front of that thing. Who the hell knows if you're going to see it? Yeah, look at that.
But I really, when I was looking through the clips and like there's no real rhyme or reason why I chose a lot of them. I liked our bench's reaction. I think that it shows that like our guys really care about each other, and they all got up, and there's, things like that.
I
On the
videotape my bench, or especially early in the season. I put a camera. It's easy to get a camera and just point it at the bench, and then we scout the bench. It's like, yeah,
that's something I could probably try to start doing.
but it's like, okay, you didn't play, but look at you. You're not in. You're not in. What are you doing? Like, and then as soon as they think I'm doing it, it's like, all right, this coach is serious about this.
Yeah, and then this was a charge. This team was undefeated at the time. Tough place to play. They packed their gym. It's extremely loud in there. You can see the cheerleaders are wearing Santa hats. It was the last day of school before Christmas. It was December 21st that year, and big charge taken. Everyone got excited, and those kind of things. And again, that's one of my favorite kids I've ever coached. Give him a shout out right now. Keyshawn Truesdale, right there, not good at basketball. He was not. But like he played his role and he played major minutes. Ended up starting a lot of games that year. I always want to give coaches something that they can. I don't know why this thing keeps closing. This is good ball movement play. And another thing we started doing, and actually, it's funny. I can circle back to the clinic that I started, and that has been big for me in terms of like I've been fortunate that a lot of my friends in coaching have been willing to come and speak at the clinic on our program's behalf, I guess you could say. And
right.
My first year, I think I had TJ Tibbs was the assistant coach at Baruch College at the time. I had Todd Jamison, was one of the best high school coaches in New York City at Nazareth High School. Nolan Adams was the head coach at BMCC, Manhattan Community College, coming off a league championship.
People want to help, though. I have found that. I mean, people want to help other coaches. It's like we're all together.
And I did it as much as I do it as a fundraiser for our program, and that's, I guess, contributed to these are you saw our initial jerseys.
Right.
I showed you before. These were the newer jerseys I got the following year, and these are sublimated, and then you see the nice logo right there on the shorts, and it's also on the stand, and so like I guess that kind of contributed. But I also did it because there's not a lot, you said before, there's not more of that in New York City, and there probably should be, and I think that contributes to why New York City basketball is not as good.
And why do you think that is? Is it gym space? Is it gym space? Like people can't find spots to do it?
To run a clinic?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if people don't want to organize it or don't see the video of it. You'll find a lot of coaches, and I'm sure this could be said of Wisconsin or any other state. They think that they know a lot more about basketball than they do. And I think that's because like they've won big thing in New York City. Like, they're hood tournaments. You play in the hood, and the refs aren't real, and the basketball is atrocious. They're just hood tournaments, and I played in them growing up, and that definitely fostered my competitiveness and definitely helped me get ready to play high school and college basketball, because like it forced me to play a different style or get used to playing against a different style, things like that. But like there's not necessarily a translation.
And there's no translation to the college game. Like,
right, but even in high school,
but
I've had, my sister. I have a younger sister who comes to my games a lot because she's a lawyer right around the corner, and she was at a game, and one time like someone involved with one of my players, like his summer coach was like bad mouthing me or something like that, and I don't care. Like, what does he know about basketball?
I know. My wife heard that at one of our games. It was like it's like, why do you listen to that? I don't listen to it. Like
it doesn't bother me at all.
It doesn't bother me at all.
That kind of stuff will come up often, and I think because of that, like coaches aren't willing to educate themselves, and so that was a cool thing that I think happened through my clinic, is that like my first year I did a lot of the legwork by myself, in terms of marketing it in and emailing people and getting ignored and all that. I felt like a a Jehovah's Witness, and the doors slammed in my face a lot.
Right.
I had coaches email me back with like the most like disrespectful. If you don't want to come, just don't answer the email. Like, don't say like, oh, I've been coaching this amount of years and here's what I've done. Like, I got a couple emails like that. I looked up the guy's record. He was like 60 games under 500. Like, maybe you should come to the clinic.
Right.
Um, but one of the first year, one of the TJ Tibbs, really good friend of mine. He's the head coach at College of Staten Island. They just transitioned to Division II from the CUNY Act, the same league I played. We played against each other in college, then coached against each other. He did a footwork drill he got from John Bayline. He calls it under the rope. I'm sure you guys have seen it before.
Yeah.
Basically, 4 lines, everyone drive together, land simultaneous,
Yep.
work on jump stopping and 2-foot landing and pivoting, things like that. And my first year, like, I knew how to do that stuff, but I never really thought about teaching that kind of things. You know what I mean?
Right.
I guess in my head they had more important things they needed to learn.
Yeah.
And I saw TJ do it October going into my second year, and I saw that. And often at my clinic, I don't get a chance to watch it.
Right, because you're running around like a chicken.
Right, I'm running around. I'm doing registration. I'm making sure the camera's set up, whatever it is. But for whatever reason, I got like a 3-minute window. I was sitting there talking to our coach and watching. It was like we need to do this.
Right.
We went to do that every day. That's how we started practice every day.
That's what I tell coaches that go to those clinics too. I mean, I'm going to go to the clinic and I'm going to walk out of there with 3 or 4 things. I'm not going to walk out of there with 50 things, but I'm going to walk out with like that or something else. And that's what I'm going.
So there's the one clip, I guess would be the best one I can show for that. Yeah, it's this one. I'll start sharing again. Like,
okay.
Hold on.
But that's what I mean. Yeah. I'm going to come when this whole thing dies down. I'll come down. I'll come. I can stay at my brother's place. I'll come. I don't know how long it'll take me to get from where his place is to yours, but
I'll send you. I usually, because I'm so thankful of people.
It'd be fun.
Speaking at the clinic and stuff like that. I really try to tell them, like, listen, like, there's a really good pizzeria around the corner. I got you. Like, I'll get you some food.
I'm telling you, my brother's a foodie too. He lives in New Hampshire. He's got a place in New York. He's a foodie. There's so much good food in New York. It's crazy.
So you can see this?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the same gym we saw before. So one thing about this gym is like this is the charter school that there's actually really want to blow your minds. There's 2 of this exact gym in the same building. It's a charter school in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn. And one side of the building.
Where do they get the size to do this thing?
I think it used to be like a warehouse.
Okay.
Something like that. The building is gorgeous, like not just their gym, but this is Achievement First. So they're on the 4th floor, and there's an identical gym on the 2nd floor. So this is actually where the New York City holds their PSAL holds the A and B quarterfinals and semifinals, because they just put the A division in one gym and the B division in another, and you can go to games all day. It's like a college recruiter's dream, to be honest.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
You're seeing 8 games
I mean, this looks like a gym you'd see in the Midwest. Most gyms in the Midwest would probably, if they were this big, would probably have seating on the baseline.
It's enormous. It's the entire floor. They have a nice weight section over there, and I'm extremely jealous. And I'll show you a cup of our gym. We have a nice gym. I'm not complaining at all.
Yeah, your gym's nice. I like your gym. Your gym's got a little character to it. This looks like just a box. Yeah.
This is like a quintessential possession of, like, this is actually the year after we went to the Final Four. But when I spoke earlier about the splitting the gyms, right? Splitting the team into 2 sides of the gym. This young man over here was a senior at this point. His sophomore year was the first year in the program. He never played. Right. He was definitely on the 11 through 20 side of the gym. And then his junior year, he was probably like, he could have been 11, he could have been 9, he could have been 13, depending on how he was doing.
Right.
But senior year, he started every game.
Right.
And there's absolutely no way he would have started every game as a senior if he wasn't with us as a sophomore and a junior.
Right, because he needed to learn, yeah.
Right, and even here, he's 5'8", 126 pounds. Right. But he shot the crap out of the ball. But this is a really good possession that just kind of spoke to, like, we're kind of an uncommon New York City PSEL team in terms of, like, we get the guys to believe, we move the ball.
Do you see a lot of zone?
Oh, and tons of zone. And, like, you see the 2-foot jump stops, the patience, like that kind of stuff. You see me get really
Why do
excited
you think you see a lot of zone?
because nobody wants to teach man to man. Either they don't know how to.
That was a leading question. If I was a lawyer, that was a leading question because I
Yeah,
knew
but
the
I was
answer.
ready. I was ready for it. I jumped all over it.
I'm going. It's because it takes time to teach man. Like I can
Um,
throw anybody into 2-3.
and then this kind of circles back to I wanted to show if anyone who watches or listens to this, I want them to at least be able to steal a couple plays, and you can just send me a message and say that it worked because
Right.
so we run a lot of our stuff out of this side box, our baseline out of bounds.
Yeah.
And I'm big on I like things that look different. Like you don't see it often. You might not know how to guard it. Don't know what we're doing. This year we had still only put in my first year when we went to the Final Four. We only really had this play out of the side box, and then we put a couple in it. By this past season, I think we had like 4 or 5 out of the same alignment, so that you couldn't sit on that one play. But this is a really quick out of bounds play. And it works all the time. That him getting the ball there, and I saved 2 different clips. Doesn't happen often. We usually get it.
Usually get higher. The
No,
screener in the middle. I like that.
there's
I like
no,
that.
but they're not. It's not a screen. It's an exchange.
Okay.
But this is where we usually get it. This is the Final Four year, our first Final Four year, and I would say that we probably scored on this play, maybe like 40 to 50 points throughout the season. Quick.
They almost look like they're in man-to-man here.
Exchange layup, and we get that all the time. And then and I could pull that up on Fast Draw if you wanted to see it, or
Yeah, you send me that on Fast Draw. I'll have you send that to me on Fast Draw. I'll put it in the show notes for the people.
this is the same game, different play, same alignment, and I guess I screen recorded at the wrong time, but they started in that same side box, and then we get that pop out a lot.
And you get the 3.
Yeah, and then we get this a lot too. Same thing. He's just getting out of the way. Layup.
That's the problem with the zone too, because they're not handing anybody off. They're just standing in their spots.
Yeah, and then this is another one. Like I said, if I had thought about it more, and one thing I try to do, the one play is called Georgetown, because the day we put it in, my assistant coach was wearing Georgetown shorts, and that's what we came up with. We needed a college, but the other one is St. Joe's. Is
Okay.
One of my best friends coaches at St. Joseph's College in Brooklyn, and one of my other best friends coaches at York, and
Okay.
we named it over there too.
What so let's go on to some questions I have. So how would you describe your coaching philosophy?
How would I describe my coaching philosophy? I feel like it all stems from, I've been around basketball since I was young. I was, second, third grade. And I just want them to know that, that it's about more than basketball, which is the most important thing. And it's easy to say, harder to prove. I think you'll find a lot that a lot of people in New York City, they don't, or in general, there are a lot of coaches who want to use kids to win basketball games, and they don't care about the person behind it, and or how they're doing in school, or what they want to do, and what's going on in their life. And I think that can be seen a lot of kids from, at least in our area, they don't qualify coming out to accept the scholarship or even go to good schools.
Right.
So it's about more than basketball. The one thing that we did, each year I tried to have a theme. I don't think we had it. We didn't really develop until like towards the playoffs of my first year. Like we needed I forget how it came up, man. I'm sure I had 3 senior girl managers, or they were juniors the first year, but I had the same managers for 2 years in a row. Then they were like our team mothers, for me included, and they would probably remember the exact story. But something happened, and the kid was like, "I'm trying." I was like, "It's not good enough. Like I need you to give everything," and and that just clicked, and that just became what we said in huddles. And we had it on a shirt at the end of the year, and going into the second year, that was like the theme. And then, I don't really remember what it was. And this year was like we had to be different. You know, we had going into last year going to this year, we had one of the best guards in the city. He was in that clip with the small court. He averaged 27 points a game. Probably, you know, he led us in every category. Where's he
going?
He's at he played his first year at Hudson Valley Community College.
Okay.
And he was actually that first college player. We had a couple kids who were on the Final 14 my second year that could have played in college, and one of them I think got hurt right before tryouts, so he was supposed to be a preferred walk-on at St. John Fisher, and another one just decided not to try out. It wasn't for him.
Right.
Well, they didn't go to the schools that I wanted them to go to. Like the best situation for them, basketball and school-wise. You know what I mean? They're all doing well, which is what's most important to me.
Yeah. Sometimes schools speak to you. Yeah.
Yeah, the opportunity to get out of the city draws a lot of kids, and SLJ does such a good job at getting kids to teaching them how to advocate for themselves and their college readiness. Like a kid that going to St. John Fisher is going for free. St. John Fisher is like $70,000 a year.
Well, that's what people don't understand with the schools. My son's going to Middlebury. It's cheaper than going to the school that's 5 miles away, and then the school's like $80,000. I mean, there's schools out there that have a lot of money. Trust me.
Yeah. So Isaiah, he went to Hudson Valley Community College, and he had an opportunity to go to a couple of different schools. He had some personal issues at the end of junior year. His grades didn't finish up the way he should have. But he had a really good year as a freshman. He started every game in college, and that was most proud of, like, something that I think speaks to like at least the quality of our program. Like, you know, he's not a scholarship player, maybe a Division II kid in a couple of years, but probably going to have a good Division III career. But like, he was ready to play college basketball from the day he got there.
Right. And that's the kicker. Like,
right.
People irritate me when they talk. Division III basketball is good basketball.
Oh, especially out where you guys are. You guys in Wisconsin, the D3 teams can beat D1 teams.
Well, and we don't have any. We have one D2 program, so basically our D3s are like D2s. They're so good. They're so good.
Yeah, it's incredible. I've seen tape, but
yeah. Well, look at Dick Bennett and Bo Ryan both started at D3 coaches in our state, and then ended up coaching Wisconsin. Yeah.
And then, you know, the player I'm referring to, his name is Isaiah. He texted me in the beginning of his like second week of preseason. He's like, "Thank you for being so hard on me. Like, I understand why now."
Right.
He's like, because like I have kids on this team that they don't get it, and where they're coming from, who coached them.
No one did. So what do you think? What do you think's the easiest part of the hardest part about coaching in New York City, NYC? What's the easiest thing and what's the hardest thing?
Can it be the same answer?
Sure. I mean, I guess I've never had anybody answer it that way.
The thing is, everybody wants to play basketball, and the hardest thing is everybody thinks they can play basketball.
They think they can play basketball. That's the difference.
I think it's just there's so many people in the city and so many schools, and it's oversaturated. And so the easiest thing is like, it's like I said, generally people, you know, they want to play, and that is, but at the same time, it's the hard thing is getting them to understand, at least where I'm at. But you can say this about the teams that win the highest division in the city basketball every year. Like, they don't know what they don't know, and you know, they think that they're ready and they're not. And that's why often the kids that have come out of the city, and generally speaking, over the last, let's say, since I left college, the last 8 years, haven't done extremely well in college right away because they might not have been prepared to play college basketball from a IQ standpoint, a physical standpoint, just a maturity standpoint.
Yeah, it surprises me there haven't been more guys from New York City. Like,
yeah, I mean, but a lot of the best players from the New York City, New Jersey area, they leave. They go to these schools somewhere else, and
yeah, they go to the prep schools, and then they're not.
Yeah,
New York City kids. Yeah,
Obi Toppin is a New York City kid. I didn't even know that.
Right.
I didn't know that at all because he's been gone so long. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I never thought about that. That makes a lot more sense. Hey, is there one coaching moment, a good one or a bad one that we could dive into that might help our listeners?
It
can be good, it can be bad, doesn't matter. Like a teachable moment is what I refer to it as.
Well, the best, I mean, I find that the best things that have happened that I've experienced especially as a head coach, was that the moments that like show you why you're doing it. And I remember my freshman year.
I think one of them you already explained with the cups. That's one. That's a
Right,
moment.
yeah. But this one, after my first year, um, it was actually like 2 days after we lost in that tough playoff game up in the Bronx, and uh, the kid was a senior that year, and it was the first year I met him. He had been on the team for 2 years. He failed off both years, his sophomore and his junior year, and that was one thing I was super like. You're students first, and again, that's one of those things easy to say, harder to do.
Yeah.
But we come in, we have study hall every day, and like I tell them all the time, like I'm passionate about it, and I love you guys. At the same time, like I'm about business. So they would come in and they would put their first thing they did at study hall was they take their phone and they put it on my desk, and they take a laptop or they take their work, they get right to work. Like, you're here to do work before practice. Like, I don't have to be here till 5:30. I don't get paid for study hall time. I'm just there. I was there for them.
Right.
And then I worked really hard with this one kid who probably didn't get the support he needed when he was initially starting out as a student in middle school, and never learned how to study and things like that. And after we lost in the playoffs that year, he sent me a 3-page long text. And this is the original iPhones when the letters were too big and the text went on forever. He talked about how this is the best year of his life, and it had everything to do with basketball and nothing to do with basketball at the same time. That he never had somebody that cared about him like I did, and held him accountable. He apologized because we always talk about, like, big on naming things. We call the basket, we call it Mama. Like,
Right.
you want to protect Mama, that kind of thing. I've heard the basket called the White House and whatever it is, but we always call it Mama. He's like, he ended up giving up the layup on the sideline out of the bounce play that lost the game. He's like, you told me all year about protecting Mama, and I didn't do it, and I'm sorry, but this is the best year of my life because I didn't fail off. I was there every day. My mom cried. She never thought I was going to get accepted to college, and that kind of thing spoke to me.
Right. Those are the moments. All right. So I'm gonna go through.
I had one more though.
Okay. Okay.
A warning. I think that as a young coach, one of my issues, I was immature as a college coach to a certain extent. I came into a situation where, like, I played right away. I played and then I coached right away, and I'm not sure how it is in Wisconsin. A lot of the coaching positions here, even college, are part-time. So my college coach was at that time was a middle school history teacher. And he was doing that for 20 years, teaching middle school history and coaching college basketball.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it's a full-time gig here, man. If you're a
lot of
college coach, you might do a little class at the college, but you're a
right
college.
here. Some of the coaches in the CUNY throughout my time have been like assistant athletic director or
Right.
something like that. They had a secondary title, but the athletics was their secondary title, basically. So, for whatever reason, my college coach, like, he started going through some things. He wasn't around as much, and he's one of my mentors. I talk to him every day. I love him. He taught me a lot about life in basketball, but he had, things going on, and the other assistant coaches weren't around as much as I was, because I was young. I didn't have as many responsibilities, and it became like a power struggle between me and one of the assistant coaches who was my assistant coach when I played. And I became very like, well, I did this, and not bragging, but like defending myself. Like, these are my recruits, or whatever the case was.
Right.
And I think that I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
And I think I wore a big chip on my shoulder when I didn't get the coaching job after my coach stepped down, and like, I'll show you kind of thing. I'm ready, and I wasn't.
You weren't ready, and the first one I didn't get, I thought I was ready too. I just remember how.
Yeah, I think that I would have handled it fine, but
Right.
like, I definitely wasn't
You'd
gonna.
be better now if you took it now.
Oh
Like,
yeah, without
yeah,
a doubt.
yeah.
But like I would speak cautiously to young coaches or coaches who are just getting into it about, being where your feet are, and not really feeling the need to defend your every action, just kind of letting your what you're doing talk and kind of be a little bit more humble and I've never been someone who brags or boasted or anything like that. It's just looking back now, I realized like I could have done a lot. I could have handled myself differently than I did.
Right.
And I think that came from just like a
No, I think that's great. I mean, you basically just the last question of every podcast you just answered. So we won't leave it there, but I always ask, what would you say to your younger self? What would you, that's
yeah.
always my last
That was
question.
me basically talking to myself.
Yeah, no, but that would be that. I think that's pertinent. All right. So I'm going to ask you, go through my rapid fire here. What's your favorite brand of basketball? The actual ball you use.
Wilson Evolution. I like that's the one I shoot best with.
And does the city use that? Or anybody can use anything?
You can use it. You can use the ball from Space Jam if it's all you got. It's I'm telling you, you guys outside of New York City are not prepared for the wild west that is New York City basketball. Like they make their own moves.
It might be an orange like outdoor ball.
Yeah, we played with some bad, and a lot of schools don't provide you with basketballs when you get there, and you have to bring your own, or you only get one, and then the last couple of years, I stopped letting the other team warm up with good basketballs. I gave them like the gym class basketballs to warm up with, and I kept our basketballs for ourselves because like other teams were treating us so badly, and then I felt bad and I circled back, but I did that a couple of times.
That's great. That's like it is the Wild West.
It's nuts, man. You don't understand.
One word to describe your ideal player.
Tough.
Okay. If you go to one sporting event in the world, what would you go to and why?
World Cup. And just like the passion, I don't think could be.
It's crazy. I mean, when I traveled Europe with my brother and we were in Italy when it was in Italy, and you can't describe it to Americans. It's like the town. It literally, you could have robbed every house at that point. Like,
yeah, I would love. I've always wanted to be in that kind of environment. Like even like or being somewhere like Texas with like a Friday night football game or something.
Yeah,
like
high school football in Texas or
Indiana
basketball. Yeah,
I remember I just like one of my uncles lives in basically right outside Orlando, Florida, and I just missed like opening weekend of that high school season one year, and I was upset because I know that they get into it, but not like Texas, but like kind of like
Florida football is a real deal too. It is. What's your favorite pregame meal?
I mean, our games are at 4:30 a lot of times. I'm not even eating between.
Okay. What's your favorite post-game meal?
Post-game meal. If I could choose one, I'm going to the pizza place around the corner from St. Thomas, Lenny and John's Pizza. Only their slices are good. Their pies aren't very good, but their individual slices are.
And why is that?
I have absolutely no idea. It's just what they're actually known for. It's like it was a big Flatbush Avenue is like I think it's the second longest street in Brooklyn. A lot of people don't understand how big Brooklyn is. People that like have never been to New York City, like Brooklyn is almost as big as Manhattan. Like Brooklyn is like 8 miles long.
Okay.
So it's like enormous. And Flatbush Avenue goes from all the way in South Brooklyn to the Manhattan Bridge, which is like 5 blocks past the Barclays Center.
Right.
So I grew up right there on Flatbush, like in the middle of all that, in Flatbush Avenue, and it's a big. Back when they originally opened, there was a big stretch of bars there, and it became like they would stay open till like 4 a.m. and just hand over. They've remodeled their place just based on all the money they made. And I don't know why they're so famous for their individual slices being way better than their pies. It's just what they do.
Oh, wow. One skill not being taught in today's game.
Footwork.
Okay. One thing you do to relax. It's obviously not running.
I actually, for someone who doesn't run, I've run, and I'm really out of shape. I'm like 25 pounds past my playing weight. I ran like an 8:20 mile, which I think is all right.
Well, that's pretty good. That's good.
Someone who doesn't run.
Yeah.
One thing I do to relax, I started. I wish I'd gotten into it earlier. I started listening to podcasts. Like when I was on the elliptical at the gym or something like that. Like big thing we didn't really touch on. Like I think what really helped was kind of finding what I liked in other people's practices and making it my own, and also taking it from it. Like I like basketball immersion. I don't know if you're familiar with Chris
Yep.
Oliver and how he teaches, and we did a lot of that stuff. Actually, if I could share one more thing, I kind of incorporated something that we did in practice for decision making. I think is pretty cool. But listen to podcasts, video games, walk my dog. I have a 6-year-old psycho of a dog that's somewhere around here. But just basic. I've always been, like I said before, I don't really know what it's like to not have a basketball season. So it's kind of always been like the driving force.
Hopefully you have one next year. What's one coaching technique you consider important?
Not overcoaching. Not overcoaching, I guess would be. I don't know what that technique would be.
I think that's good.
I tried to do too much when I was, yeah, you know what I mean? Like now it's way easier to kind of like stay in the same.
I think moderation's the key. I think what Oliver does is great with basketball immersion, but you can't do game-based practices the whole time. Like
right.
You can't.
But I also can really see why it helped. I also think that I don't think people play enough in practice, if that makes sense.
I mean, I've always done that. I've always had enough playing. I've always had enough 5-on-5 and skill. I mean, the problem is you need a moderation because, especially with your guys, I gotta at some point leave that, and I gotta teach them the footwork. I have to teach them because, again, they don't have the skill set. It's like I'm not gonna teach them calculus if they don't know algebra.
Yeah, and we didn't. I think that when I circle back to what TJ did with the footwork drill at the clinic, like. Something so simple. I remember we didn't get, no one different was on that team. We didn't get that much better. Like kids got older, but we didn't get that much better. It was just like we got better at the little things that people don't value, like stopping.
One word to describe your coaching style.
Intense.
Okay. One book you'd recommend.
Ooh, basketball related or otherwise?
One book. Just pick one book.
The Lone Survivor was a really good book. I like that.
I like that one. That's a great book.
It's way better than the movie, and I like if I was gonna go sports related, I like the Stuart Scott book too.
Yeah, I listened to Lone Survivor on Audible. It was great. Any parting words, Coach? Because you took my last question. My last question is, what would you always say to your younger self? You kind of answered that already. Any parting words for the listeners? I'll put all this stuff in the show notes and the stuff he was talking about. And
if anybody wanted to reach out to me, my Instagram is at Coach B Shea, and we can take all that stuff. Parting words is just like, be intentional about what you're doing. I always tell the guys that in whatever you're doing, be intentional. Like, don't just do it for the sake of doing it. Like, know why you're doing it, or find your why in doing it. And like that was big. Like, and I think that was something that when I got into a rant with the player from before, like we had lost, no one expected us to have a good season this year because we had lost such an important part of our team from last year. And, and we had a couple of new kids just happen to come into the school. But I think the most part is like we grew and we were intentional about how we got there every day in practice. And we struggled early on. We lost some games we should have won. And then, the coronavirus killed the city championship run.
But it's the process. So that's what I would say to the younger coaches too. It's literally about the process.
Yeah. Don't, my college coach always taught us when you're a pressing team, you can't get upset when you give up a layup.
Right.
It's going to happen. Like, just know how you're going to know what you're striving for in your end game before like you give up on something.
And know how you're going to change it in the future. Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good night.
Hey, Coach. Hope you enjoyed the video. I love walking in my empty gym here with my shooting machine in the background. Let me know how I can help. Subscribe and like. If you're looking to take your coaching to the next level, if you're looking to maybe put some of these pictures on the wall, let me help you. Go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. Thanks for watching.